Hey everyone, my name's Chris Hendy.
I'm Damian Hall.
And guys, obviously me and Damian work together. I'm Damian's sort of strength coach. I've been working with Damian for a number of months now. Obviously Damian's a very well accomplished ultra distance runner. And I think we have so many conversations in the gym that we wanted to kind of just take a minute and kind of ask each other these questions face to face in terms of training, lifestyle, everything else in between. And kind of share the answers with you. I think Damian as a coach works with a number of athletes. Myself, obviously, I work with a lot of athletes running different distances. But I think a lot of the questions and the answers today, I think, will resonate with all of you. I think in some shape or form. And there's a lot of questions around strength training and ultra distance running. And I guess we just want to make it a little bit clearer as to what we do, how we do it, and how our business, Strength Endurance, go about kind of integrating it into a lifestyle and understanding the requirements of a runner. So I think Damian's got some great questions. I've got a couple of questions, and I hope you enjoy it.
All right then, you ready?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, why should most runners or all runners strength train, do additional strength training?
I think I could sell it a number of different ways, obviously, but I think the one thing is to keep doing the thing you love. So I think, like, in terms of staying healthy, staying strong, staying injury free. I think, like, so many people think about the obvious benefits, like gaining more strength, more power, more speed, but actually it's more about just longevity in a sport, like being just remaining injury free. I mean, the running community is riddled with injuries of all shapes and sizes, and I think the most important thing is about showing someone how they can go about kind of treating themselves in a certain way, like getting them, if they have a certain lower limb issue, like how can we get them stretching that area, how can we get them strengthening that area, bringing more balance to their body, simply to allow them to keep running.
I mean, on top of that, some recent research showed that additional strength training could improve your running economy. Admittedly, it was kind of 3 to 5%, but if you're adding 3 to 5% from lots of different areas at the same time, and also I believe it's going to help you run with good technique. You know, if you're more upright, for example. So for me, there's at least 3 reasons to do additional strength training.
Yeah, I'm just gonna but guys, like when it comes to that kind of stuff, like when it comes to integrating it and starting a strength training journey, like that's what I want you to think about more than anything. I think is just making sure that you are. We're just trying to make you a more well-rounded runner so you can keep running. But in terms of running economy, running efficiency, improving that all comes part and parcel with just kind of moving better in the gym and then transferring that movement out into the road or out into the trail. Yeah,
and I've actually found it more enjoyable than I thought, Chris. It took me years to build up the courage to go into a gym because I want to run outside, but it's been more enjoyable. You get a nice boost from 1 week you can only do 3 of something, the next. A week or two later, you can do 5 of them, and you feel good about that. So that's helpful too.
What are our this is good because obviously, like working with Damo, here's someone who's done so many things already in his career. Like, it's like, what's my role with him? Like, what can I possibly give Damian that he already hasn't done? And for me, it's obviously again, it's that. Can I give him some education? Does it help you with maybe understanding the benefits of it and like how you can start to treat yourself a little bit? Maybe do a little bit of extra work here. Just create a little bit more strength and power in certain areas, but also kind of just eradicate a few imbalances maybe. So what did we find? We found a few things, didn't we?
Well, I think possibly relating back to my football days, basically my right side is slightly weaker than my left. We found definitely the hamstring, possibly the glute was weaker. So yeah, you've shown me some really good ways to sort of isolate and especially do single leg work that seems to have repaired things. I was worried that would lead to some sort of breakdown. It possibly has in the past. And I feel stronger for that. Yeah. So that's good.
I guess those sort of areas, I guess a lot of people will find that they've probably got those hamstring tendinopathies and glute. They've been told their glutes aren't working, but I think again with you, it's just balance, isn't it? Like over those long distances, like the smallest issue can become the major problem, can't it? And can obviously DNF you in the worst case scenario. So I think it's just balance, isn't it? I think I bring in, but I think I've worked quite hard just to try and make sure that you understand. Like the more you understand it, the more we can, the more you can then relay it onto your other athletes and everything. So
yes, no, definitely. So I've got some questions. I suppose if a runner's coming to strength work for the first time fresh, what exercises should they do for the, to get the most out of it? What could you name, sort of 3 or 5? What should people do?
Good question. It's going to be individualized to a certain degree. So I think the best thing you could do is kind of just go do a little bit of a movement screen on yourself, or you have an understanding of what your weaknesses might be. So again, it's dependent on the individual's kind of areas that they might want to work on. So but most runners, I would say it's going to be some form of single leg training. So doing some form of like Bulgarian split squat, so one foot in front of the other, loading that single leg squats, single leg RDLs or single leg deadlift. When you're training that single leg hamstring or single leg musculature, anything like that is really going to make a profound difference. Something as similar as a goblet squat, when you hold the weight across your chest and sit nice and deep into a squat under load. Fantastic at bringing balance to your hips, like moving your body through big range of motion. Like, I think one of the hardest things with a runner is they get tighter and tighter and tighter over time. Is that fair to say? I don't know. Like,
I feel that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, and I think getting into a squat on a regular basis, loaded with weight, with body weight. I think anything you can do like that is going to help you just move more freely through range of motion. So I think the squat, single leg work, and I'm a big fan of sort of doing some resistance band work. Something that actually gets you priming and activating those kind of key muscle groups that you want to hit, and not just your kind of glutes and your hamstrings in the area, but upper back. So like. We talk about that a lot, don't we? And when we get into those kind of positions with the poles or with the packs or whatever, big fan of opening up the thoracic, opening up your back. So I think at home, like something as simple as some single leg work, squat, and some form of activation work or priming work with the resistance bands, like a banded pull apart or some banded lateral walks. There's some great little exercises there for you to be starting out with.
Thanks. Next question. What about, as people get into strength work and they sort of do it over a period of weeks, what should they be thinking about in terms of kind of reps and if there's any weight involved and sort of periodizing it? Like, how does a runner, do they go and do 10 of something, or do they do 5 or 27 of something without stopping? Or how do people approach that?
I think we call it like you want to condition your body to anything. Like, I guess like with running, you want to condition yourself. So when you first start out with any type of strength training, keep the reps and sets really simple. 3 by 10, 3 by 15. Real simple numbers, just so you can start to work through with adequate rest in between. So 60-second recovery in between sets. But yeah, I would say sets of 10, sets of 15 is a good place to start. First couple of weeks, let your body get conditioned to the range of motion, because there's nothing worse than that feeling of muscle soreness, because after a session where you've done too much. So start really simple with simple numbers like 10s and 15s. Then it's somewhere down the line, around 4 weeks into a program, and that's probably, if you're doing it twice a week, that's about 8 sessions. You're probably looking at then upping the ante a little bit. You want to create some new stimulus, new adaptation in the muscles. So you might want to start adding a bit of load or a bit of complexity to it. That's when you might drop the reps down to sort of that strength phase where you're looking at 5 to 8 reps, 3 to 4 sets. But you've got to apply some form of intensity, some progressive overload to actually allow some physical change. Like, the reason you're doing it is because you want to be stronger or more powerful. So you've got to start actually challenging the muscle tissue to change. There's so many people we work with who have been following the same program for years, and they say to me, strength training doesn't really work for me, or I do it but I don't really see the effects of it. It's because you haven't really changed it. It's like saying you've done the same run program or you've done the same run route for 2 years and you're not seeing much change in your ability. So so 10 sets of 3 to 4 sets of 10 to 15 reps. 4 weeks later, 5 weeks later, looking at that new block where you're looking at kind of 3 to 4 sets of 5 to 8 reps, increasing a bit more load, increasing the intensity. And then we're looking for that strength phase. And then later on down the line, you may start talking about bringing in more power-based exercises where the reps drop even lower sometimes. But generally, you're working in that strength block for a lot of people, that 5 to 8 rep range. And that's what you kind of work in. You work in that kind of 5 to 8 reps. We build it up, drop it off for a week, build it back up again, drop it off again. So we're just constantly looking to keep you strong.
And then something we discuss a lot is kind of where do you fit that in with your running over a year? And I think we both agreed that, yeah, you don't want to be, when you come close to a key race, you don't want to be knackering yourself out in the gym. So that it's almost, you want to almost start off the year, or when you're not running so much, that's a good time to really build some strength.
Yeah.
But then keep it more of a sort of maintenance as it goes
Yeah,
on.
yeah, for sure. I mean, ideally, I would like to say, I'd like to periodise your year. You look at the whole year, you look at an annual plan and go, right, when are we going to build? And that's essentially what I have done with you when I looked at your key races over the year. And in my head, I'm thinking, right, when can I get those key blocks of heavier or more challenging work into Damo to create some more work? And then as the rate progresses towards a race, we taper off, we bring the intensity down, we bring the volume down, but we still keep the intent and the exercises relatively the same. But the amount of work you're doing on top, we can't afford for you to be cooked, to overcooking yourself, especially when your mileage is getting up towards the triple figures kind of thing at the end of each week. So yes, you definitely want to periodise. If you do have chunks of time throughout the year where you're not peaking for a race, or you've got a good 8 weeks or 12 weeks, then definitely you should be looking to kind of build up the intensity of your strength work alongside your running volume. You're only doing probably 2 sessions of strength a week, in an ideal situation if you're running as much as you are. It's the same thing with all my long course kind of athletes or long distance athletes. You're really only realistically getting 2 to 3 sessions a week.
And actually, this is something we've discussed a lot, is like, where in the week do you fit your strength training in?
Yeah.
Because I think maybe a common mistake is, for most of my clients, there'll be one rest day where I say don't run, and there's a temptation to do your strength work then. And I think we both agree, that should be a proper rest day. You shouldn't probably be, hitting the gym hard then.
Yeah.
But then if so, when, what do you strength train on harder running days or easier running days, or where do I stand on that? I mean, I think whether it's a running coach or a triathlon coach, I think we all have different strength coaches have different opinions on this. But for me, it's down to the individual. If you're looking to make a significant change to that individual in terms of getting them over an injury, getting them stronger, getting them more balanced, the neurological load it takes to make significant change to your body. So if I want to get your hamstring stronger, I can't afford for you to have done got around a run and then come into the gym and you're coming into me. Because I wouldn't do that, Chris.
No, I know. But
only once or twice.
Yeah. But I think it's you neurologically you can't afford to go into a strength program, into the gym or into a strength training program overdone. You need to be quite fresh for it, because if you want to make significant changes, if you want to challenge your body under load, you need to be quite fresh for that. So I think what I often say is that I would say that we look to keep at least 3 to 4 hours in between sessions. So if you've got to run and you've got to strength train, let's keep a good 3 to 4 hour window. If you've got a big major run, you're not strength training on that day. It's simple. You simply can't. You won't have the mental or the physical capacity to get any real decent strength work done. If running is your main discipline, then that is what you focus on. But throughout the week, I would be getting that strength session in either end of the day to an easier run. Do you take a full rest day? Yes, you could, but I still want you to be getting that strength work in somewhere in that week. So a lot of the time when I'm working with time poor athletes, as in they've got tons to do, I'll be using that 3 to 4 hour window as my rule of thumb. So but essentially, I'm not a big fan of any athlete trying to do their strength work after doing their sport training. So whether it's run, bike, swim, because they're generally fatigued. Their mind's not in it. They're not fully motivated, and so they're not really going to get benefits of what they're looking for. However, if that's all the time you have, then there's still some benefits there, and that's fine. And if that's the case, then that's fine too. So, but ideal world, that 3 to 4 hour window between sessions would be key for me.
Okay, I mean, the way I'd look at it maybe is earlier on in the year, give if there is going to be some compromises, give your strength work more priority then before the training really picks up, and maybe later in the year where the running is probably more important than it was earlier in the year, then maybe that's where you prioritise it over the other one a little bit.
No, agreed. Yeah,
all these things are a little bit of compromise and stuff, aren't they?
So
but,
on that point, actually, it's really when you're working with someone that is running pretty much every day. I mean, you're running every day?
Usually 6 days a week.
Yeah, 6 days. So it's quite unknown territory, strength, like trying to, like, in the strength and conditioning world, we're not trained as such to work with long distance athletes. Like all the courses I've ever done, they're kind of baffled when I give them the case studies about the athletes I work with. Their kind of minds are blown because they're used to working with like field-based athletes, rugby, football, where they have seasons on, seasons off seasons. But a lot of ultra athletes, they all run all year round. They have competitions or events they want to run all year round. So it's not a fixed science. There's no like, people will talk about research and studies and everything else in between, but essentially there's really isn't. It's a new territory, as it were. So I think what we're doing is like this conversation here is. I'm coming from like a science background, and like what I know is kind of fact, but then putting it into real world application isn't easy. Like, and I think what you're saying, blocking it, focusing on strength at the beginning of the season, and then kind of running a maintenance program where you maybe only doing one session a week, and a little bit of mobility work here and there.
Well, actually, that brings me on nicely to kind of mobility work or stuff people can do at home without weights, or what I love is the stuff that you can do for 5 or 10 minutes when you're boiling the kettle, or maybe even on the phone, doing some single leg squats or something. What are great ones to do around the home? I don't know, step ups or can you give us a few of those? I reckon anything to do with, obviously, again, single leg work is going to be huge. First thing we lose is balance, coordination, proprioception. Massively important when you're out on the trail or when you're running. Like it's that kind of ability to change direction, load your individual leg. So anything that can get you standing on one leg, working on calf raises is, it's the sort of stuff that your physio will give you, but let's up the ante. Again, throwing your back leg up on a small step and going into some of those split squats is another great exercise you could be doing at home. I guess I want to give you more than just standing on one leg and doing calf raises, because that's kind of what kind of a generic physio program is. And when we talk about a performance athlete, you need a lot more than that. So if you're at home, dropping down on the floor and give me some push-ups, developing your upper body strength has a great transfer over into running. Why? Because you want to hold good positions when you run. You should have a good upper body strength as a runner. Using poles, all those sort of things. So push-ups, single leg squats, fantastic exercises. Single leg arabesques or deadlifts are fantastic exercises to be doing at home. Okay. So what would you recommend for someone who's maybe sitting down a lot? In the office, perhaps on the sofa, or on public transport or in a car. That does seem to cause issue with a lot of runners. What exercises could they do to counteract that? Yeah, I mean,
I think it's one of the biggest problems at the moment, isn't it? Like, people want to run in the morning, go to work, which we all have to do, or they live a certain lifestyle, and then they want to run in the evening, or they want to get moving again. So in terms of, you should have a dynamic warm-up routine. You should have some form of dynamic flow. There's so many good resources out there at the moment where you can just have 3 or 4 key exercises that you can string together that take you 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, and it just allows you to kind of open your body up again. Like, there's so many problems come from the hips, especially, where it's just, again, it's like what we're doing now, these poor positions that we hold for hours and hours. So like standing up, getting some range of, reaching down towards your toes, getting some range of motion through your hamstrings, through your lower back, then standing up against a tree or a wall and opening up the hips, doing some kind of gate openers, hip openers, just moving into an air squat, just doing a bodyweight squat, going through sets of 5, 10, 15 squats, nice and slowly, nice wide feet, just opening the hips up, standing tall, squeeze your glutes. It doesn't need to be overthink. You don't have to overthink it too much. Like, essentially what you've got to think about is that your hips are everything. I mean, if they're stiff and tight, you're never going to get that hip range of that leg range of motion for when you stride out. You're never going to get that glute activation, which is what you want when you run. So I think you can always judge a runner, or you can judge that person by the way they squat. Like, that was obviously probably the easiest way to get an image of how someone moves, by the way they squat. And if they can't get their butt halfway towards their knee height, as in sitting down, that you're going to be working with someone who's probably got hamstring issues, lower back issues, calf issues, because they're very, very tight. So if you're at the office, stand up every hour or so and give me 10 squats. You know, like it's as simple as that sometimes. You know, it's not weird. Yeah, just start it off in the office. Stand up every hour or so, punch out a set of 10 squats, and sit back down again. And you know, it's just a nice way of getting the blood flowing and opening the hips up. So
yeah, all right. One I find, especially from people who are maybe new to trails, is they roll their ankles a bit. Is there anything you can give us for, you know, how would you strengthen someone's ankles?
So this is all the research. A lot of conversations happening at the moment about how important ankles are. And it sounds weird, but you know, when someone goes into like a clinic and they'll say, I think I've done something to my knee. The physio will panic. Everyone kind of, it's like a red flag. You know, people will be like, oh crikey, you know, is that an ACL? Is that a ligament? When it comes to ankles, someone might sprain their ankle and they don't overthink it too much. They're like, oh, you'll be all right, just rest it, put some ice on it and it'll be fine. Ankles are now becoming, obviously, people are realising how important ankles are, as in terms of developing the strength. So straight away, certain things like just actually getting some ankle mechanics, like just working on dorsiflexion and plantiflexion, putting a resistance band over the top of your toe, attaching it to an upright, even under the desk, you know, just working on that plantiflexion, dorsiflexion, working on the angles of the foot. So you're just developing the ligaments of the foot. Balance work, you know, like don't underestimate the fact of just being, can you stand on one leg comfortably? Can you move through ranges of motion? Can you do that kind of star excursion test? You know, I don't know if you've ever done it, when you stand on one leg and you have to reach from different points with the other foot.
Tricky.
Just things where you're looking to develop it, and as you go, you start to load that ankle. So again, putting weight, you know, holding weight, going into those single leg exercises again, because essentially you're trying to develop your ankle strength, not just in isolation. You want to develop your ankle strength as a whole. So again, going back to things like loaded squat, loaded single leg squats, loaded split squats. So just things where you really are putting load and weight through them in a controlled environment, so that they can allow them to get stronger, so that when you start running the trails, they have that ability to, they have that depth of strength to be able to handle the undulating ground. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
No, that's great. Two other common complaints are probably knees is a big one. I mean, I never get issues, but some of my clients do. You know, what would your be suspicion of someone who's getting knee issues, other than it could, you know, technique could come into it.
Oh, yeah.
But there is probably some fixes you can suggest, I'm guessing. And the other one is probably, how do you get stronger legs for the long descents that we get often in European mountain races? What would be your suggestions there?
Knees is often, my personal belief is a massive imbalance in the legs. So like you're running very heavily. You're utilising a lot of one muscle group, like you're relying on your quads to take all the work, and you haven't got enough of a butt, and haven't got enough glutes and hamstrings to support your legs, so your knees and your quads take all the action. And again, that kind of goes on nicely to your question about downhills. Like, it's the same principle. Like, you've got to have balanced, strong legs. I mean, the strongest runners I work with have a depth of strength to their legs that they don't even realise. Like, Damian walked into the gym and he's moving his own body weight in weight for fun. Same with a few other top ultra athletes, and that's the thing. Like, you're balanced and you don't even know it. You've got a nice balance to your body, and now whether that's because of soccer, whether by football, or you know the hiking you used to do pre-running, or just the way you've progressively built your distance up. But knee pain, so many people just are very tight through the hips. They don't have much of a glute. They don't have much glute strength, hamstring strength, and so all you've got to imagine is all that load is going through is going through those quads, because that's what your body's used to using a lot of. And so what we've got to do is bring more strength and stability through to the knee by developing other groups of muscles. So my tip would be to start developing those other muscle groups to bring support to the knee. I broke this knee twice and I lost all the muscle both on this leg 2 years in a row, and my obsession was getting that muscle tissue back, because I knew that the only way this knee would ever feel somewhat safe again was if it had muscle surrounding it.
Yeah.
And then going into the downhill stuff, I mean, you've got to have strong legs. Like and you've got to practice it. I mean, you've got to allow your body to get conditioned to that, the impacts. We talk about plyometrics, when we do like our jumping work and
I hate that stuff.
Yeah, okay. Well, the only reason we do those big jumps or the broad jumps or like the high jump to landing is because we're trying to reintroduce those types of impact and seeing how your body handles it, and we're trying to develop it and challenge it and build it up. So there's numerous ways you can do that, but essentially you're trying to build up the conditioning of that leg. So it's a fine line, and I think that's what strength training does. You can kind of cut corners, because you don't really want to be telling a new runner to go start running down lots of downhills, because they're probably going to
get a load of DOMs.
They're probably going to smash themselves, aren't they?
Yeah.
So I think and that's why I like strength training. That's why I'm a big proponent of it for runners, is that it allows people to kind of cheat the curve a little bit. You're able to get ahead a bit if you can develop stronger legs. You've got to find that you're able to handle those declines a lot better, a lot of descents a lot easier, because you've got a lot more strength and stability in those legs.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes good sense. I think.
Can I ask you a few questions?
Yes, I was just looking at my list. Oh, revenge time.
No,
I think I'm done with my list. Yeah.
So I guess when it comes, I have a lot of athletes that I work with, and it's amazing how many of them just running off the cuff. They run. I ask them what program they're following. Do they run with a coach? And a lot of them are running off or using a program they found on the internet, and they've been using it for a number of years. And sometimes it's based on time, sometimes it's it. But this is quite a generic question, but what sort of program? What would you want a runner to start with, like in terms of a program? Like what best?
It always depends sort of where they are now, but I'd love to get people to. I mean, once you're running 5 or 6 days a week, if you can do that regularly and mostly easy, if you can do that over a period of weeks and months, that's going to build a really nice, safe, gradual fitness. Always, just like you do with strength work, it's always gradual progression. There's always a clear idea of how to progress, but you gradually, because injury in running is quite common actually. But if you do it sensibly, it shouldn't happen. Hopefully.
You have quite a good model about the way you approach it. What's that model you follow? It's quite simple, but it's really effective. I think.
Yeah, there's a really good. This comes from British Athletics. There's a really, you should think of it kind of medium week in terms of volume, harder week, easy week. So it's kind of step down, and that easy week is where you're getting stronger, where you're recovering, and that's a really sensible way to follow it all the way through the year, really. Yeah. And I do that with all my clients. I do it myself. I think that, and you in strength training, is that like a deload sort of? There's it's a smart thing to do. Otherwise, and I've spoken to people who've gone, 50 miles, 60 miles, 70 miles, 80 miles injured, because they just go more and more and more. And that your body just can't take more and more all the time. No.
I mean, so the deload, you need that deload to allow for like adaptation and all that muscle recovery, just basic recovery to happen, aren't we?
Yeah, no, it's really important.
What would you say in terms of like ultras? I mean, the word ultra is so broad now, isn't it? I mean, is it anything anything above a marathon, isn't it?
To the longest in the world is 3,100 miles.
Seriously?
Yes.
Seriously?
It's in New York. It takes place. It's called the Self-Transcendence 3,100 mile race. It goes around the same block in New York for about a month.
Oh my word!
Shall I sign you up?
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's quite a unique one.
So that's
quite a small field on that one.
Yeah, how do you even get that? That's insane. Yeah, because a few of I guess when it comes to like getting into ultra, I'm actually a massive fan of it. Over the years, I've learned to love it simply because of it actually takes away time. The pressure of time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like
you're hardly looking at your watch. You're not worried. You finish a marathon nowadays, and it's like, what was your time? That's the first thing you're asked. Yeah. And if you're a minute behind your time, somehow you failed, or a few seconds it can be, and that's.
Do you have an obsession with it? Do you think about time when you run? I mean, like some races you probably do, but do you think about just position-wise more than anything?
Yeah, that's a great question. I suppose I have got into the habit of doing one or two races over and over again, so you can't help compare your previous time then, but. But I've always been more excited about position in the race. Like, can I get top 10? Can I get top 5? Can I get top 1?
But you don't really compare the time. I mean, times it's kind of almost irrelevant, isn't it?
The terrain can be different to the previous year. The weather, so many things can be different that it doesn't really compare. Even though you have course records, but often people know they're kind of not really a fair judgment.
It's so good, isn't it? I mean, I've been, when I first got into working with ultra athletes, I was, everyone was like, that's crazy, that's mad. But actually, the more you understand it, the better I actually find it. As long as the individual has like a right temperament towards it, as in the right mindset towards it, as in they're not obsessing about time. Actually, the fact that you can walk, run, jog, you have to scramble sometimes. It's actually, you get to eat, you get to fuel appropriately, hopefully. It's actually, and it's more adventure, isn't it? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
No, that's our big secret is that, especially in the lumpier ones, a lot of it's hiking or power hiking. It could be up to 50% of a race could be power hiking. Aid stations are amazing. You just sit there, stuff your face. It's great. And usually you've got all the time in the world, pretty much. You've got 20-hour cutoff or something. So you just relax. It's just a fun day out somewhere beautiful, really.
I've done one. Did I tell you?
Which one have you done?
I did one on the Gold Coast in Australia. It was called Kokoda. It was like a tribute race to the Kokoda Trail in Papua New Guinea.
Yeah.
But idiot here had only ever run best part of a half marathon distance before that, and they were doing it as a team of 4, and I did it simply because I wanted to see what it was like to run through the night. That it destroyed me, obviously. I mean, I was completely just underprepared, but like what's it like running through the night?
Oh yeah, that's my favourite thing to do almost. Like especially if you're in the mountains and the stars are out and that sort of thing, and it's it's quiet. It's just you and your head torch and occasionally another runner maybe. I love that side of it. Obviously it can, it could piss it down or be hailing on you or something occasionally, but you hope that's not going to happen. But yeah, that's another element of the sport. I've been out in the night a lot more since I've been a runner. And seen more sunsets and more sunrises. So it is a sort of hippie sport. It's about being in nature. I love all that stuff. Yeah. It's cool.
So if you've just done a half marathon, you've just done a marathon, and you're thinking about doing something a little bit longer, a bit more adventurous, like how would you go about kind of getting more? So if you've just been doing a lot more road running, how would you kind of go about getting into trails, like doing more trail-based or ultra distances?
Well, the first thing I'd say is quite a lot of people do a first marathon, for example, and think I couldn't possibly run further. But actually, number one in ultras, you just run slower. Like you just slow down. You're not trying to get to your sort of peak speed that you can maintain for that time. I'm not going to say it's easier, but like a 50-mile ultra marathon might not punish you as much as a 26 miles on a road. I think the first thing is most of them are on trails. There are some on tarmac. I'd get more used to trail running because it builds up a bit of strength, and it can be a bit slower, so it's good to get used to that. And probably you're going to spend a bit more time on hills. But also, my favourite thing, practice eating. So as your runs get longer, you're going to need a bit of proper food after a while. If you're out for 3 or 4 or 5 hours, but that becomes a skill in the sport.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to get the fuel in. So practice shoving chocolate and cake in. That's one of my favourite parts of the sport. It's
I think one of the things I want to talk about. Last thing I wanted to talk about was like having a team around you. Like you've got Reenie McGregor as well involved in what you do, like, and you work with the physio. Have you got a physio?
Yeah, and a physio. Yeah.
So do you think? I know from my personal experience, like working with, I like having other professionals around me and my athlete, the people I work with, because it empowers me. But like, what do you think the benefits are? Would you agree with this? It's important to have a team of people around you to help you.
Yeah, one of the problems with, say, the internet is it can be helpful, but it can be just bewildering because, and especially, post a quick question on a forum and you get 20 different replies, and in a way that's not helpful, is it? That just confuses you. So I've always thought, go to an expert. I've known Reenie a long time, not known you so long, but you've brought a whole new element to my training. I've just gone to experts rather than mess around with Freddie on the internet forum.
Yeah, it's tiring, isn't it?
Go to experts if you can, cool. and hopefully you're getting you are getting better advice that way. Yeah. And it's good to have a team. It's good to be a bit accountable and a bit bounce ideas and get someone to objectively look at your training. And that's definitely helped me right from the beginning. I've had a coach.
You've also had coaches, haven't you, all the whole way through?
I had 2 years where I was self-coached, and I did things a bit differently, and some of it worked and some less so. But I've actually had 5 running coaches, not because I fall out with them necessarily, but I'm just fascinated in getting expert views. There are some good books and good podcasts, but if in doubt, go to an expert, I think.
But it's worth having a coach just to have a sounding board, someone to maybe just be a secondary conscience for you. I don't know, well, often it's sometimes.
for ultra runners, they can be quite obsessive or quite extreme minded anyway. So they want to. One of the big things is they're often trying to do too many races. Like,
of course.
Oh, should I do this race? Could I fit that? Could I fit that 100-miler in between the other 200-milers in the 3 weeks? And really, they know they shouldn't, but they just want someone to say, maybe you shouldn't this
Or just
year.
streamline it a little bit, because it's nothing worse than kind of trying to do everything and you end up doing nothing or half the things you want to do.
Yeah, or just not very well and just burning out.
Getting sick or injured. And,
No, I'm a big fan of experts. Donald Trump may not be a fan of experts, but I think they're useful still. made it political.
He got it in there. Cool. Are we good? Do any other questions you've got there?
I don't think so. I think that's about it.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Nice.
No, I think that's it.
Well, guys, hope you enjoyed that. It was just a quick little chat between me and Damo.
Series 1 of Chris and his bench.
Oh, I don't know, Damo. We maybe, if you like it, we'll come back again, shall we?
Yeah.
It's a nice spot.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks again.